Why is Donald Trump so hell-bent on moving a sex offender to a minimum prison? Why is he doing that? What is Donald Trump hiding? There is clearly something that he is trying to hide. What president in history moves a convicted sex offender who has assaulted children, let alone assaulted anybody? Epstein and Ghislaine, whatever her damn name is, Maxwell, the evil ass lady that was luring those kids, he has moved her to a minimum facility, and now the victims are speaking out. Donald Trump is hiding something.
New letters coming out from the victims of sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, who are concerned in a different way than so many people who view this case as a political controversy or online content or many of the other ways that it has mushroomed. These are the people who lived through it, the victims and their families. And they say the Trump Justice Department is putting convicted pedophiles and sex traffickers above the victims. We're going to start right here, and I'm just going to read to you what they're saying. Quote, I feel like the DOJ and FBI priority is protecting the third party, the wealthy men, focusing on scrubbing their names off the files. That's a reference to the reporting about the benefits Donald Trump himself and others may have gotten, of which the victims know who they are. They continue, quote, to learn that our own president has utilized thousands of agents to protect his identity. And these high-profile individuals is monumentally mind-blowing. That's their focus. Wow.
Now, isn't that something? The victims are pretty much saying that Donald Trump's concern is to make sure he alleviates his name and his information off this list, okay? Because we heard about the list. Donald Trump ran on the list. He said he was going to release this list as long as y'all vote for him when he's actually on the list. So his motive is to conceal the things that he's done, his relationship with Epstein. I mean, they've already released that Donald Trump paid Epstein over 4,000 payments. Over 4,000 payments. Do y'all know the grand total of those payments? $1 billion. What do you think Donald Trump was actually paying for?
The reports are how Donald Trump famously put Epstein conspiracy theorists and other sort of podcasters in charge of the FBI. And remember, the reporting is they spent a lot of time and energy going through the material. And while some of them may have said or claimed they wanted to do that to then release it, remember, nothing's been released. That's why he's accused of a cover-up. But we do have reporting that they also used that time to shield various names. So remember, if you're keeping track of what has been a sordid political story, a lot of the people who claim to care about this story for justice, to go after bad guys like Epstein and his conspirator Maxwell, are now aligned with a government that's doing the opposite, shielding people, giving more secrecy to Maxwell and of course, the deceased Epstein, because while he's gone, the information could still come out and matter to people. And on top of all that, the administration going into the weekend gave leniency to the only incarcerated conspirator. Now the issue's snowballing, and I want to show you a way that it has affected Donald Trump, who is, if nothing else, very conscious and sometimes skilled at PR. He understands the difference between noise and language, wherever it may be in our world, and things that go to the heart of his political base, which he has always kept an eye on. So imagine his concern when someone who's been outspoken in many venues, Charlamagne the God, he's a popular radio host, he interviewed Harris, he's taken on more of a political role over the years, although he's known first and foremost as a New York music radio host, but he also has the show on Comedy Central, he's been on MSNBC. He is someone who goes and talks to all kinds of people. And that may be because a lot of people have seen his voice as important. Clearly Fox News and Donald Trump do, which is the story I'm telling you tonight, because he went on Fox talking to none other than Laura Trump. And so he is speaking with his reach, his credibility, but to the MAGA audience, making headlines, calling out what he sees as a Republican coup in the making over the Epstein issue, which led to a Trump backlash.
I think there's a political coup going on right now in the Republican Party that people aren't paying attention to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think that this Epstein thing is going to be a way for traditional conservatives to take their party back. This is the issue that has gotten the base riled up. The MAGA base isn't letting this issue go, and for the first time, they know they can, probably take their party back and not piss off the MAGA base. I think they're going to do that.
That's Charlamagne's take. As for who's getting pissed off, well, the president certainly was. He wrote a lengthy diatribe with plenty of personal attacks, going after Charlamagne, calling him names, saying he doesn't know anything about Trump. But the problem goes deeper than just a messenger, so to speak, referring to real evidence out there in a venue that clearly bothered Trump, the Trump hour of Fox there. The wider swath of voters are also concerned. There's new polling out today. 70% of Americans think that there is a client list, and while there may not be, the DOJ claims there isn't. That comes after a long time where Bondi and others literally told everyone there was. More than 60% see Trump as hiding information. That's true. That's the secrecy we've been reporting on. And a whopping 81% blame Trump for the way that the administration or others are hiding the info. In other words, the dance that we hear politicians sometimes do apparently isn't working on most of the public. 81% includes a heck of a lot of Trump voters. Top Republicans are also concerned about that story going into the weekend, where this administration, which rode a wave of outrage over Epstein, is now giving leniency to his only incarcerated conspirator, Maxwell. So she was moved to that minimum security prison. Epstein victims were outraged. Why, of anyone in the entire prison system, in their view, should this convicted sex trafficker who worked with Epstein get leniency right now, get a nicer prison environment, which, by the way, if you're a prisoner, that's one of the biggest major changes in your life you can get other than getting sprung out, is getting to a better, sometimes safer prison. She got to a minimum security facility that, under DOJ rules, people convicted of her crimes shouldn't even be allowed to be in, which makes it very suspicious. Now, Republican senators, who famously go along with just about everything Trump does, including things that they had previously opposed, say this whole Maxwell thing has gone far enough. They are publicly urging Trump not to pardon her. To even have that conversation is a type of indictment. Think about the ethics of pardoning a convicted sex trafficker if there's no new evidence or substantive reason. Trump is not ruling it out, which is why they are warning in public. And so the Epstein panic, from the substance, what I read to you from the victims and their families, to the politics, Charlamagne and the polling, to the ethics, again, of a world where the people who claim justice for Epstein are now aligned with a president who's helping an Epstein conspirator and sex trafficker. We turn to Michelle Goldberg, who has been reporting and writing about this for some time for the New York Times, an MSNBC analyst. Your view about this story and how it continues with the substantive help to Maxwell. She's been upgraded.
It's so astonishing. And I mean, I feel like so many astonishing things happen in this rolling catastrophe of an administration that we lose track of it. But how quickly we have moved from Trump is going to blow the lid off on the Epstein conspiracy to Trump is going to both, sort of do favors for Epstein's chief conspirator. And now the idea of a pardon is out there in the ether. It's really astonishing. And I think the question then becomes, first of all, why this transfer, which nobody has even given the ghost of an explanation for. And then what is Trump hiding, right? Because all of this is happening when Ghislainemaxwell, there still is a possibility that she could be subpoenaed to testify before Congress. So first you have Trump sending his former private attorney, now a Justice Department official, to speak to her for hours on end. Then she gets this inexplicable transfer. And again, I'm somebody who didn't necessarily think that there was something terribly incriminating about Donald Trump in these files, but he is doing his best. I mean, on the one hand, he says he wants this story to go away. He wants people to stop talking about it, but he obviously doesn't want that enough not to make, or for his administration not to make, these moves that, at least on the surface, look extraordinarily incriminating.
Yeah, these are huge risks. These are very guilty looking risks, to your point. And in politics, looking guilty is bad. in law, we have a different standard. And as you were careful to note, the fact that somebody's referenced or caught up in a scene is not at all probative of the higher criminal standard. And he hasn't, even when he was out of power, been accused of that kind of wrongdoing. And he's famously been accused and faced prosecution for other wrongdoing. As for the so-called transparency, that's the other whole bit of it, Michelle. They have twisted themselves in knots. The victims, as I reported, are upset about it. But the government officials have twisted themselves in knots in a way that they can't hide. There were enough FBI personnel involved that people discussed it with reporters, and reporters very carefully sourced and fact-checked. Bongino famously talked about, well, if they don't release it, he might quit. Well, he hasn't quit, and they haven't released it. And it goes on in that manner, where then one of the floated things, as you know, and I'll remind viewers because there's been so many twists and turns, was, maybe they need a special counsel. You don't need a special counsel. You have all the stuff. You don't need a new way to punt it out for a year if anyone was serious about transparency. Here's what Obama's AG said about that debate right now.
So finally, you would release the files if you were Attorney General right now?
Yeah, I mean, take into account, the privacy interests of various people, certainly the victims uppermost. But there is investigative material that can certainly be released, that should be released. The focus shouldn't be on grand jury material because there are a whole bunch of problems with respect to the release of grand jury materials. But with regard to investigative files that are in the possession of the Justice Department and the FBI, those materials should be released.
So what does the secrecy tell us?
Well, I mean, it's certainly not about the victims, right? And that has been their fig leaf so far. You've heard that from Kash Patel and from others, that they can't release this material because it would re-victimize these women. Now, these women are out there saying, or at least some of them, that they feel victimized by the way the administration is handling this material, and yet it's not changing the administration's approach. So I think we can rule out any concern about that from their motives. And again, we don't know what they're hiding. We only know that the indications are overwhelming that they're hiding something, and that they're willing to take significant political hits. I mean, right, the floating a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell is crazy. It's, and it's also guaranteed to keep this story alive now, long after this administration has tried to put it to bed. And yet they're willing to do it. Why?
What is going on? So as y'all, administration is got some weird stuff going on here, and it looks like Donald Trump is trying to hide his own stuff that he was doing. I mean, he did give Epstein $1 billion. Was that for SEX?